My name is Rob Tebbutt for ID Boxing.
Hi, I'm Barry Jones, former super featherweight champion of the world.
I'm Declan Taylor, boxing journalist.
My name's Andy Clarke, boxing commentator and pundit.
And this is my 2022
Boxing Awards.
Upset of the year. It's difficult, you know, what constitutes an upset. I could say Dimitri Bivol versus Canelo Alvarez. I picked Bivol to win that though, so maybe not suitable. Yeah, it's been a tough one really. I feel like last year was the year with a lot more to go off with regards to upsets. But I'm gonna go with Shane Gill versus Steve Robinson. I think at one point in the fight he was 80-1 to win the bout. So anybody who managed to jump on that, well done. But yeah, for me, I'm going to go for that as my upset of the year, just going off the bookies.
So this isn't really, it is an upset, I think, in terms of the bookmakers' odds, but it's just a night that I really enjoyed. It was a bit unexpected and somebody pulled one out of the bag at short notice when they weren't really fancied. And it's Poddy McCrory away against Leon Bunn. I can guarantee you that nobody else will go for this one. Just a really good night, tight venue, big crowd, loads of Irish came over, and he won, and it was spectacular. And one of those kind of quite niche occasions, I guess, but I was just really pleased that I was there. I got the call at short notice too, so, you know, me and him, very similar scenarios.
My upset of the year would be upsetting for a lot of people who lost a lot of money on this fight back in June. Junior Farr knocked out in one round by the 43-year-old Lucas Brown. Nobody saw it coming, not least Junior Farr.
Upset of the year has to be Nakatila versus Miguel Pichellt for me. I think even though Nakatila had a lot of wins, he had two notable losses in the only times he stepped up. And for me, certainly to Shakur Stevenson when he was totally outpointed, and for Pichellt, who'd only lost really recently to the undefeated Oscar Valdez, and Valdez having issues obviously after that with substances and what you like. I thought that Pichellt was going to walk right through him, but he never. He came right unstuck. I think that was clearly for me the upset of the year.
Knockout of the year was tough. There's been some good ones. But for me, you work your whole life and you sacrifice and you give, you know, yourself to the sport for that one crowning, defining moment. And I feel like Joe Cordina against Kenichi Ogawa got that out of nowhere, really. Punch from the gods in the second round, knocked out a very durable, strong game, worthy world champion in Kenichi Ogawa. All of those years for Joe Cordina, traveling the world, being away from his family and his young kids in London training with Tony Sims, all culminated in that one split second of genius, really. And he was crowned IBF Super Featherweight champion and fulfilled a lifelong ambition just in that one moment and that one right hand to the chin. So for me, Joe Cordina gets my knockout of the year.
Jordan Gill, because firstly, the knockout itself was spectacular, but the context of the fight was, it was going against him. He was losing. He was all but done. And you could argue that it should have been stopped by that point. I certainly don't think Dave Coldwell would have let it go on much longer than it did. And to pull that out of absolutely nowhere was mega.
Knockout of the year, hotly contested this year. For me, when it comes to picking this, you've got to go for and look at the context. So for me, Joe Cordina knocking out Ogawa in Cardiff in his first world title fight to win the world title was textbook stuff that dreams are made of. So for me, that's my 2022 knockout of the year.
Knockout of the year, without any bias, has to be my fellow Welshman, my fellow Cardiffian, of course, and that would be Joe Cordina against Ogawa. It was a punch of all punches from a non-puncher, if that makes any sense. I just think it was there's been some great knockouts this year, and there really has some fantastic uppercuts thrown from some world-class fighters, but I thought that right hand there from Joe Cordina was the punch to silence everyone.
Trainer of the year, again, it's always kind of a difficult one because it's a very long 12 months, and if you're a trainer who has several fighters, it's difficult to kind of keep a span going for the year. I think Shane McGuigan's had a good year over here in the UK. But for me, the measure of a good coach is how you improve fighters and game plans. And I feel like two fighters in particular really showed out in their big fights of the year, and that's Jamel Charlo and Errol Spence, both trained by Derek James. Derek James, I think I voted for him as trainer of the year now in 3 of the last 4 years. He's a wonderful coach, does really, really good work with fighters of all different levels of their career. He's done some great work with Frank Martin, unbeaten lightweight prospect. But for me, the performance from Jamel Charlo and Errol Spence against Brian Castano and Dennis Ugas, respectively, arguably their 2 career best performances. And the man in the corner, the man with a plan, Derek James, was behind that. So for me, Derek James is my trainer of the year.
Trainer of the year, I thought about this quite long and hard. I'm going to go for the deadly duo of Jamie Moore and Nigel Travis up at Moss Side in Manchester. Mark Leach won a vacant British title, love a British title win. Jack Catterall, of course, did what he did against Josh Taylor. Should have woken up the next day as a undisputed champion of the world, and nobody fancied him in that fight, really. So they should have that on their mantelpiece. But they do have an undisputed champion in Chantel Cameron, and that one maybe went a little bit under the radar. But yeah, I think they've had a really good year.
Trainer of the year is a tough one, but there's one person in this country anyway that sort of, for me, stands above everyone else, and that's Shane McGuigan. That gym is busy. Different boxers at different stages of their career, all running different races. He's had an undefeated year. He's got a European champion in there. He's got CBS like going for a world title. He's got the Azim brothers flying. Caroline Dubois, Daniel Dubois has gone to America and won out there. For Ellie Scottney is European champion. There's all sorts of different boxers there. So Shane McGuigan is my trainer of the year.
Trainer of the year. I don't really rate trainers too much. I think you're only as good as your fighter. I would say this, but for me, my favourite trainer this year has been Shane McGuigan. I just think the way he conducts himself. I think that he's meticulous in his research. He's meticulous in his thought in the gym, but his corner work impresses me the most. He's clear, direct, and everyone listens to him. And I think he's having the results.
Prospect of the year is tough. I think there's quite a good spread. I think America, there's Keyshawn Davis. But I'm going to go for Adam Azim. I feel like there's something very special about him. We're at that stage now where we're getting all very excited. He's blowing through these fighters like your Ryland Charltons and Anthony Loffey and stuff. And look, he's supposed to beat those guys in good fashion, but it's the way he's doing it. He's going through these guys at a rapid speed and looking fantastic while he's doing it. So I think Adam Azim is my prospect of the year for 2022.
So prospect of the year, I'm going to go with a fighter that I've seen in the flesh a couple of times. She won't be massively familiar to a lot of people, but that makes it kind of fun. Christina O'Hara McCafferty, who was a good amateur in Belfast, boxing out at the St John Bosco. Didn't quite make it to the Olympics or anything like that, but she's 2 or 3-0 as a pro now, and she's really good. She could box anywhere at minimum weight, light fly, flyweight, super flyweight. And I was just very, very impressed with her when I saw her.
Prospect of the year comes from Shane McGuigan's gym, and it feels like a strange one to call him a prospect anymore because he headlines on Sky these days. But Adam Azim is still only 7-0, and in 2022 he went 5-0 with 5 knockouts all across the country, in Manchester, Liverpool, London. He's done it everywhere. And he's got that X factor. There's something about him. He electrifies the place. For me, he's the prospect of the year.
Prospect of the year. It's a tricky one, this. Again, I'm going to stay... Do I stay UK centric? I think I will. And I will say, for me, just for the potential of what he has, Adam Azim. I think he's a future superstar, and that future might be literally 2023. I think he has everything in his arsenal to become a real star on the world stage. So I would say for me, he's my prospect.
Fight of the year is difficult. I think we had Lubin and Fundora. That was a really, really good fight. Back to, to and fro, a lot of action. But I think Michael Conlan and Lee Wood kind of had a bit of everything in that 12-round fight. Not quite 12 rounds, because obviously it was a stoppage win for Lee Wood in the 12th, but Conlan came out, started brilliantly, knocked Wood down, looked like there was no way that Wood was going to see the final bell. And he slowly but surely kind of chipped his way back into it in the second half of the fight. Took a load of shots from Conlan in the first 6 rounds, but stayed in there like his Nottingham friend Carl Froch before delivering a spectacular 12th round knockout win over Michael Conlan. So yeah, I think that is my fight of the year. Had a little bit of everything, and the Nottingham Rocky Lee Wood gets my my vote for fight of the year.
I'm going to go for one that I did. Brilliant British title fight, Linus Adofia and Denzel Bentley. Again, it's not one that I think the rest of the lads will replicate, but I think it's always better to probably pick one that you were at. It's always going to mean a little bit more because you get more of the atmosphere. It was just a brilliant fight. It's just a brilliant fight. 2 really good fighters, 2 really good lads, good atmosphere, to'd and fro'd, one way then the other, and at the end, either one of them could have got it. Denzel got it. I would love to see it again. I'm an absolute sucker for a really good British title fight, and that was as good as any I've seen.
Fight of the year, March, Nottingham, Lee Wood against Michael Conlan. Ebbed and flowed. Wood off the canvas in the first round, gets a knockdown of his own later on in the fight, and then the 12th round knocks Michael Conlan out of the ring, sickening stoppage. Very worrying at the time. Obviously Conlan's fine now, but that fight had everything. It's one you can watch again and again. That's, for me, best fight of the year by a mile.
Fight of the year. Difficult. Wood and Conlan was a great fight. Lee Wood, Michael Conlan was an absolute barnstormer with an unbelievable finish. But because I was there, and the occasion and what it meant, and the atmosphere and the fight itself at the highest level, I would say Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano for me was fight of the year. I just think it had everything you wanted in a fight. Everything from drama to the crowd with evenly split, which you never really get in a fight of that magnitude. Madison Square Garden was rocking, and the women there lived up to every expectation. They really did, and even to the very last seconds when they were literally fighting. You see that knee of Katie Taylor, inches off the floor, and if that would have went on the floor, she loses the fight. I think it had everything: the drama, skill set, toughness, and that's my fight of the year.
My fighter of the year, I think there's been a few with a claim to it. I think halfway through the year, I would have probably said Bam Rodriguez is not nailed on, but close to kind of sewing that up and cementing it. But I don't know. He didn't get the strong end to the year that some expected from him. I know there was talk of him boxing Sonny Edwards and a few others. Had that fight with Israel Gonzalez, who's of course a good fighter in his own right, and it was a tough fight that he won well. But for me, considering the 2 fights that he's had at the top level, Dimitri Bivol is my fighter of the year. Had that brilliant win over Canelo Alvarez, and then followed it up by really putting on a bit of a clinic against Gilberto Ramirez and becoming the first man to beat him. So for me, my fighter of the year is Dimitri Bivol, and I don't really think it's that close.
Natasha Jonas, I'll go for. 3 world title fights, 3 wins at super welterweight. I don't think even she would have predicted that would happen at the start of the year. Not that she would ever have expected to have lost the fight, because they never do, but for things just to fall and you be able to get the fights that you want in succession, I think she's had a special year.
Fighter of the year, he only boxed twice this year, but for me it has to be Dimitri Bivol, because he did it at the very, very sharp end. In May, he goes and beats, in many people's eyes, pound for pound #1 Canelo in Vegas on points, and then later on in the year he does a job on another undefeated big light heavyweight in Zurdo Ramirez. 2 massive wins for him. For me, he streets ahead of the rest, so Dimitri Bivol is my fighter of the year.
Fight of the year, I want to say Bam Rodriguez, if I can say his name. I want to say him, Bam, because Bam was just absolutely sublime, brilliant. The wins he had, and just and the manner of the wins in a division which is steep full of quality fighters. That super flyweight. He's number one on the flyweight, of course, but I think you have to go Dimitri Bivol because he beats the most marketable fighter on the planet, one of the best pound for pound fighters on the planet, of course, in Canelo Alvarez. And then there was a question that was size, and now he coped with that massive spotlight on him, and then he boxed a big guy, of course, in his first defense against Ramirez, and dominated that space as well. So I think for me, he has to be our fighter of the year.
My name's Rob Tebbutt.
Hi, I'm Andy Clarke.
My name's Declan Taylor.
My name's Barry Jones, and that was my 2022.
And that was my 2022.
And those were my 2022.
And that was my 2022 awards.